That's all the media and the politicians are ever talking about, the things that separate us. Race, religion, ethnic and national background, jobs, income, education, social status, sexuality. Anything they can do, keep us fighting with each other so that they can keep going to the bank.
People are going to be doing what they always do when the economy tanks. They will be blaming immigrants and corporate.
This country has proven resilient based on the fact that its foundation is the age of reason.
America is just now coming to grips with what unfolded here in the early morning hours here in Orlando.
In this city, thousands of demonstrators marched to protest the death of Eric Garner.
Breaking news, a fresh act of madness. The snipers hit 11 police officers.
Gun sales in this country are spiking in the aftermath of the San Bernardino terror attack.
We're bringing it on ourselves. And that's the thing. Al-Qaeda, all those guys, ISIS, they're not compared to the damage that we can do ourselves on a regular basis.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Age of Reason podcast, where we are not for the faint of thought. This is episode 45. Man, it's we're getting up there.
Yeah.
Well, let's start it off as we have been doing. Atheists like to have traditions too, so welcome to Skeptic Sunday School, where we take a verse from the Bible or talk about another religion and then rip it apart. So, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, bow your heads. Let us think. Actually, before I get into this, Nick, friend of the show, had a complaint. When we talked about Sodom and Gomorrah, he was upset that you and I didn't get into how after Lot fled the city, that later on his daughters got him drunk and had a threesome with him.
Well, that's the fun part. We can't talk about the
fun part. We left that out. We just talked about Sodom and Gomorrah. We didn't continue there. So sorry about that. Yes, Lot had sex with his daughters. Anyway, so I had a conversation with somebody, and they were completely unaware that God ever commanded violence. So I pointed out a few things in the Old Testament, but what people really don't talk about is how violent Jesus is. Now, this sounds kind of confusing because Jesus, God, and the Holy Spirit are one as a Holy Trinity, but they are presented in the Bible as kind of separate beings. So, with that being said, let me read something, and I chose a verse from Revelations because, as we're all aware, next Tuesday is voting day. And if the apocalypse is going to happen, as prophesied since the beginning of time, certain events and certain people being elected could possibly lead to that being on its way. So it's just fitting that I chose this out of Revelations. I got a quote from Jesus here, and we're going to show just how violent Jesus is. So basically, this what I'm about to read is from the book of Revelations, and it's what Jesus said to John for him to write down. And basically what it starts off with is letters to the 7 churches. And a letter to one of these churches says, basically, I see your works and all this other stuff, but then it goes on to say, notwithstanding, I have a few things against thee, because thou suffereth with a woman Jezebel, which calleth herself a prophetess, to teach and seduce my servants to commit fornication and to eat things sacrificed unto idols, and I give her space to repent for her fornication, and she has repented not. Behold, I will cast her into a bed, and them that commit adultery with her into great tribulation, except they repent of their deeds. So, just to clarify, basically he's banishing this woman that is saying she's a prophet, some sort of prophet, to lay down in a bed for all of eternity, and men commit adultery with her, and they can repent for their sins and still make it into the kingdom of heaven, but she cannot. So she is forced to sit there and basically accept rape from married men. Not only that, he says, and I will kill her children with death, and all the churches shall yes, I will kill her children with death. And all the churches shall know that I am he which searcheth the reins, which searcheth the reins and hearts, and I will give unto every one of you according to your works. So this is just one little part of Revelations, but I mean, not only, when I had this conversation with this person, they were shocked to hear that God would talk about, killing children. Everybody knows, there was a lot of war in the Old Testament, but God ordering the killing of children. Nobody really ever brings up how this is actually Jesus's words too in the New Testament.
Yeah, exactly. He said, "I come not with peace, but with a sword." But the one thing that I want to mention first is, right there as you're reading the quote, obviously it's Old English, right? So
yeah, quite terribly, I will add.
It's not easy for us to read, things like that. But often when I'm debating with a Christian, they will have these quotes memorized in Old English, and that's it always brings me back to, it's not what you think, it's how you think. And instead of trying to understand the Bible, their message, they just memorize the passages, and then when you try to debate with them, they just give you the passage, and it's like, okay, that's fine, but let's talk about it,
right?
And then they give you another passage. So
it's as the atheist, you say, I don't believe in the Word of God, and then they try to argue with you from the Word of God. Like when you make the claim to a Christian, when you're having these arguments, and you or any religion for that matter, and you say, for instance, all the books of the Old Testament were combined into one in order to make peace between a bunch of different tribes who had different views of religion. And the New Testament was written hundreds of years after Jesus was crucified and after his disciples were dead. And so you say the Bible's a man-made object. I don't believe anything in it. It's a story. And then they quote the Bible back to you. I don't understand it either. But I have a funny story about that we'll get into after this. But to get into some of the end of the world stuff, I mean, my point with reading what I just read was to say, I'm a more peaceful person than Jesus. I could never banish, no matter what somebody ever did, man or woman, I cannot banish them to an eternity of rape and slaughter their children. I couldn't do it. There's nothing you could do to me or somebody I love that would make me. I might kill you. I mean, that can happen. I could kill somebody
with death.
I can kill him with death. I mean, that's a horrible way to die. It's an old death by Majiji. That's that old Majiji joke. But what bothered me about Revelations as I was looking back into it is, it talks about how Jesus's voice, just his voice, is enough to bend people to their knees that oppose him. That's all he needs is his voice. However, he requested from God 12 legions, and a legion is a group of 6,000 troops at the least. So, you're looking at all these troops that are coming on horseback, by the way. Apparently, God isn't very high-tech. I don't know why they need horses. Most of them have wings. I mean, you read Revelations, you hear about lions and a man animal of some kind and a calf and a bunch of other things, and they each have 3 sets of wings. They each have 6 wings and eyes in the front and the back of their heads. They all have these goddamn wings, yet they need horses. It makes no sense to me. But what bothers me about this is I've talked about this guy once or twice. One of my favorite comedians right now is Bo Burnham, and one of my favorite songs from him is called From God's Perspective, where he basically writes a song from God to everybody. And the theme of the song is, long story short, that you don't need God if you are a good person. It turns atheist towards the end. But one of the things that he says is that all these religions fight each other over what they think is true, but nobody entertains the fact that God does not believe in you. And that is the first thing I heard go through my head when I was reading how he needs 12 legions, an army that size, when his voice can already bring his opposers to their knees. God, how much faith does he have in humanity? Like, how many people did he plan on having to slaughter in order to bring.
I mean,
people...
he already had to restart once, right? With the
yeah,
flood,
he already flooded the fucking world one time. I mean, you supervise people at work, right? People report to you. If everybody on your team besides one, if you had, God has 15 billion people underneath them, and that's only those that are alive today. That's not even taking into account everybody else that existed. If you just had 100 people and 99 of them revolted against you, who's at fault?
Yeah, you would think start to look at your track record and say, wait a minute here, maybe
man, you're fucked up. You don't know how to
up.
lead people. You don't blame 99 people and take one person's side over it. That doesn't make any sense.
No, definitely, and we'll talk a little bit more about the apocalypse. I think that's enough material there for another session of Sunday school. But Revelations is kind of I guess it's a lot of Christians don't want to talk about it because it's the dark side. It's got it's where hell is brought up, right. Heaven too. But it's got a lot of darkness, and it talks about the things that are going to happen to the world and stuff.
And all the people that get slaughtered by Jesus and his army get to be fed on by the birds. Like an angel actually comes out and tells all the birds to feed on the flesh of all these people. That's just terrible. But before we move on, I gotta just kind of what we were talking about. I have somebody in my life that approaches arguments the way we were just talking about, where you tell them the Bible's bullshit, and regardless of whether or not that's true, that's what the person you're talking to believes. So what you probably don't want to do is then quote from the Bible. So I gotta say, I'm not an atheist anymore. I'm converting back to Christianity, and I'll tell you why. I just received word that the tomb of Christ was discovered. You seen this all over social media?
I have seen it. They're saying potentially.
No. It is the tomb of Christ, and it has been considered the tomb of Christ for quite some time. Hasn't been opened since 1555, but it's always been there. And that's what people are posting all over Facebook. Oh my God, they found the tomb of Christ. No, first off, there's no evidence whatsoever that this is the tomb of Christ, other than the fact that you have holy people going, that's the tomb of Christ. That's it. That's all the evidence is. And they have this tomb that apparently hasn't been opened since 1555. And they opened it up, and they let National Geographic and archaeologists go in there and snap photos and shit like that. And they're going to close it up and keep it closed for hundreds of more years to come. But it's being presented as if this was just discovered. And this tomb of Christ has been around and known as the tomb of Christ for years.
Oh, I saw the articles. I honestly didn't click on them because I had a feeling they're bullshit. So
no, but there are articles out that are saying that it's now discovered. And this is not a secret place. Everybody's known about it. It's in Jerusalem, for fuck's sake. Anyway. So somebody told me that I was going to dump my atheism after I read this, and I said no, and then they said that's because you don't want to believe it, and I said no, it's because you want to. But anyway, moving on. What do we got for news?
Actually, before news, we did have a question emailed to us. The question is basically they heard us talking about some of the progressive ballot initiatives for California and Colorado,
right.
And this person must be from California. They asked about Proposition 60, which would require porn stars basically to wear condoms. So I'm not sure if you've given this much stop.
I have.
Okay, let's hear.
So it's a choice. It's a complete choice. There are porn studios out there that shoot with contraception present, and I mean it's hard because when you think, it's hard to think of female porn stars as having a choice for some reason, because it's like if you hear that somebody's having a problem with their daughter or something like that, you're just like, oh my God, they're not on the pole, right? Or they didn't become a stripper, or they're not making porn, are they? Like, we degrade women for being in porn, but you don't hear that about men. I never do. I never hear anything about, somebody hoping and praying that their son doesn't become a porn star, just their daughter. That's what everybody says. My job is to keep my daughter off the pole, which includes porn. So with that being said, assuming the fact that I do not agree with anything that anybody is forced to do that they don't want to do. Other than that, if this is what they want to do, I have no problem with it, and I don't think all these guys have to be, and girls have to be tested on a regular basis, just like brothels and stuff like that in Nevada. It's no different than that. This should be a choice. And again, I feel like we're just telling women what they can do with their body and making the guy's job as a porn star, which is hard to imagine, less pleasurable.
Well, I don't know if it's necessarily telling women what to do, because it's men that are going to have to wear the condom. But
sure.
To me, I think I'm pretty sure I agree. I'm going to vote no. I don't think it's required. You should be required. I mean, it's porn. It's fantasy. I mean, imagine if people required science fiction movies to be scientifically accurate. It's
or religiously accurate.
Yeah, it's for looks. So I guess.
Well, and people don't a lot of people don't know the actual history of porn. Porn is the very first thing to ever test a new medium of media. The very first thing ever filmed was a kiss. And the next thing, then for the first genre of film before actual films were prepared, was pornography. The first drawings were pornographic. The porn industry is responsible for us even having DVDs for as long as we had. DVDs were about to fail. It was the porn industry that allowed that medium to replace VHS tapes. Every type of entertainment goes to porn first to test it out. I mean, porn is not an evil industry, and if you say so, you're full of shit, and you got a fucking folder on your desktop that says, like cooking recipes. Yeah, we all know what the fuck cooking recipes mean. That means you clear your goddamn history every time you're done with the internet. I think people are just in the closet about it.
You got a pretty good knowledge of porn here.
No, I read. I was 16.
Dabble?
I was 16. Yeah, dabble and diddle a little bit, I guess. I'm a married man. Leave me alone.
Oh, man. Okay, so on to some news here.
Yes, so we agree, right? No condoms.
No condoms.
Yes, we're in agreement.
That's their leave it up to their choice.
Exactly.
Okay, first bit of news here. Texas State Representative Craig Goldman sent a letter out attacking his Democratic opponent. I want to quote from the letter here. I am asking your support this November to send me back to Austin and continue to represent you and your values. My Democratic opponent is a self-proclaimed atheist. This is who the Democratic Party is backing as their nominee, and I am certain my opponent does not have the value you want to represent you in Austin. Now, it goes on to list other reasons why you should vote for him. And then at the end, after he signed, sincerely, Craig Goldman, it's P.S. My Democratic opponent is a self-proclaimed atheist. I feel certain you do not share her values, and this is just one reason that I ask for your vote in this election.
It goes back to the Sunday school topic and a story that I told a few weeks ago about two old women that I helped out that said I'm a good Christian. It's a pattern. It's going to take time, but it's got to be broken. People need to stop relating morality and conscience with religion. It's just fucking ridiculous.
I definitely agree. And, obviously this has no place in politics. Imagine if it was just imagine the outrage if the person would have said, my opponent is a Presbyterian, or some other form of Christian, even a Mormon, or something like that.
Yeah, he's a Mormon. He not only believes in all the crazy shit, he actually thinks that all that dumb fairy tale bullshit actually happened in the United States. Yeah, the outrage would be extreme.
Yeah, so there's that. There is the fact that in certain states there are still laws on the books saying that if you're an atheist, you cannot hold certain offices.
Right.
Obviously those are not enforced, but if you look at certain states, they are still in the books that atheists cannot hold the office. So, yeah, definitely some bullshit, but it's Texas, so kind of expected, I guess.
Wait though. I mean, this guy is looking at Austin, and Austin is very liberal, and we have a ton of followers in Texas. So get out there and vote, people.
Yeah, but I think because he's a state representative, so I don't think he's in the Austin area. He wants to be sent back to Austin.
Right.
Because I imagine that's where their state cabinet
sure.
is.
But, I mean, we do have followers in Texas, so get out. Vote. It's not too late.
Next thing, a little bit of good news. The Justice Department intends to look into prosecuting for civil charges on NYPD officer Daniel Pantaleo for the death of Eric Garner. So it's been a couple years now, I think 2.
Yeah, it was 2014.
Man, time flies.
Yeah, right.
But
and we're still dealing with this shit.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. At least we got a little bit of good news. But I think the time is of the essence, because once the Obama administration's over, we're going to get a new Justice Department, and their priorities are yet to be known. But we do have a little update, so just passing that along.
Well, I'm going to rain on the parade a little bit. We should also point out that the FBI, the local FBI, and the Brooklyn prosecutors basically disagreed with charging him with the civil rights charges, and basically it's looking like a very good thing for him and his defense that the people that were investigating this were pulled off and put on by Loretta Lynch, and that's going to be very easy for him to defend now when it gets to court. So I'm not getting my hopes up. It is great that we're doing something. I'm just not getting my hopes up that that he's not going to walk.
Yeah, fair enough. So next thing is kind of an election news. This November, there's 5 states that are going to be trying to legalize marijuana outright, like Washington, Colorado, and Alaska. And this is just some good news coming out from Colorado based on what's happened since they've legalized it.
Yeah, it is.
So since it's been legalized, it's created 18,000 full-time jobs, which is not bad. To me, the number that's staggering when I saw this, $2.4 billion.
Yeah.
It's brought to the state. So I mean, I saw economists say that this is one of the easiest ways to jumpstart your economy right now, and I mean, I'm glad that we're finally getting the rush. I mean, I've been on the legalization bus for 15 years now. I remember in high school doing almost every single report on why we should legalize marijuana.
I remember one of those. What I thought was funny is, like, a year ago, I was arguing with somebody who was complaining that legalizing marijuana did not bring in the revenue stream that it was supposed to in taxes and that sort of thing. So there's a difference between revenue and other types of taxes. And one of those figures was it was only projected to do $70 million in 2014 when it was legalized, and it only did 44. And so what the Republicans and right-wingers were trying to do was say, we're not seeing any benefit from it. I'm like, you're not seeing a rising crime rate either. There's a rising crime rate going on in Denver right now, but it has nothing to do with drugs. There can't be any ties to it. But it's definitely come a long way in 2 years. Definitely a good decision.
Yeah, definitely. And, opioid overdose has dropped significantly.
Right.
child use has not gone up, and that was one of the fear tactics that people used. So yeah, it looks good.
And violent crime
I feel pretty
in Colorado,
confident.
Violent crime in Colorado is on a heavy decline. And it started around the time marijuana was legalized. Who's gonna get?
Yeah,
nobody's a violent pot smoker.
Yeah, I haven't met one yet. I mean, what people might be violent outside of pot smoking, but nobody smokes a joint and then just gets all riled up and has to go beat somebody up. At least nobody I've met.
Right.
Speaking of getting all riled up, Mr. Rodrigo Duterte, the Philippine president that we brought up recently, had a conversation with God.
Of course he did.
So he's already on the record. He just took over recently. He's already on the record of saying Obama can go to hell and calling him basically a son of a whore. Well, on his flight home to the Philippines, God told him if he didn't stop cursing, he was going to crash his plane.
Honestly, a little voice tells me that every time I'm on a fucking plane. I don't attribute it to God, but...
and I guess he responded, "Who is this?" And then
God played knock knock with him when he was on the plane. That's great.
Somebody's over there like, "It's me, God." It's his like second in command, thinking like, "Man, I gotta control this crazy bastard. What's the only way I can?"
Yeah, let's not tell him to stop allowing his own people and his military to murder people in his streets. Let's not go there. Let's stop the cussing.
Hey, baby steps.
Yeah,
baby
yes.
steps. So he did go on the record as saying, let's see, where is it? He said there's still a time for cursing, so he hasn't completely given it up. He's not on the plane anymore, so I guess he doesn't have to fear immediate death, but he's, I guess, negotiating with God. So we'll see how that goes.
This reminds me of the South Park movie from back in like '99, whenever that movie came out, where it's like there's all these killings and murder and death, and it's like, but no bad words. It reminds me of the South. This is so fucking comical, Jesus, or God for that matter.
Okay, moving on here. So it appears that we may have had a much different election if it weren't for one idiot outsmarting another idiot. So basically, what happened? So Chris Christie's people have denied the story. I obviously see plenty of reason why they would. But a story came out a couple days ago that Donald Trump actually offered the VP spot to Chris Christie, who, oddly enough, was in charge of finding the VP. So it's funny, He's like, I've been looking so hard, and somehow I keep coming back to myself.
And Chris Christie was extremely depressed, but then Trump gave him a bag of Oreos, and now he's fine.
No, he took the Oreos away.
He gave it back.
Remember?
He gave it back.
No. He said no. Nabisco went to Mexico. You're not eating Oreos, right? Right, Chris? So, yeah,
okay,
he
so
took the Oreos away.
He gave him a bag of Oreos. Oryo's, like the Walmart brand of Oreos.
Okay, exactly. Yeah, so basically, Paul Manafort, who was one of the previous 12 Trump campaign managers, it appears tricked Donald Trump by saying the plane had mechanical problems. So it allowed Donald Trump to spend the day, and I don't want to say spend the night, but I guess they had dinner with Mike Pence, and that's when he offered it, and Mike Pence accepted. But if it wasn't for the little lie of the plane having mechanical issues, we might have a Trump Christie. Could have had a Trump Christie ticket, which would have been.
I don't know.
I think it would have been worse. I think worse.
Well, nothing scares me more than a religious bigot having power, and Christie's not a religious bigot. He's big, but
He's a big in,
but he's not totally about shoving religion down your throat. At least I mean, I don't know. It would have been more of a Christy presidency.
Twinkies on the other hand.
Yeah, Twinkies. But I think this just shows that your candidate, if he's your candidate, he has no plans. Because if you were planning on making somebody a vice president, that's your choice. You're going to choose a vice president. You're not going to let your campaign manager go, "Hey, Trump," and jiggle some keys and then say, "Go get it." And then you run into, some just, God, the embodiment of religion being Mike Pence.
Yeah, I guess apparently the Trump family, his two well-spoken children wanted Pence to begin with too. So I don't know if they factored in, but regardless.
Butthead, sons of bitches.
Okay, so my last article here is actually a sad one. Last night, 2 Iowa police officers killed in ambush-style attacks. So it appears that it was 2 separate attacks. Both of them were in their squad cars. Basically, ambush they didn't have time to pull the weapon, anything. Just shot execution style. The man, Scott M. Green, 46. They've arrested him today. The white man. He had a lot of crime history. Nothing that, nothing obviously to this level or anything close. The one thing that I did read that was interesting was that he'd recently been kicked out of a high school football game where his daughter goes for waving a Confederate flag in front of black students. So I don't, it's obviously early. I don't want to, put a motive, but it does, make you wonder if people, we talked about it, kind of baiting it along and trying to incite the race war,
right.
By if it's mistaken that a black person were to commit these police killings,
right.
Do
we know the races of the police officers?
I believe they're both white. One was a rookie cop, one was a veteran cop. Obviously that doesn't matter, but
right.
Still, it's two more people that won't be going home,
right?
Just because of some crazy guy.
Yeah. We'll report it again as more details come to light. But anyway, moving on from that, let's see what we got here. We have Donald Trump tells his crowd in Greeley, Colorado, which is about 20 minutes from me, tells his crowd in Greeley, Colorado to vote early and often. So what he means by often is he wants his people to use the mail-in ballot and then go vote again at the booth on election day. And so far, some people have listened, or at least 3 people have been caught. We have one woman who was arrested in Iowa, and 2 others that were arrested in Dade County, which is Miami, Florida. So voter fraud is running rampant in this country, and I'm going to lose the election because of it. So we need to commit voter fraud to overturn voter fraud.
Makes sense to me.
I didn't even do an impression of Trump when I said that, but it's hard not to. I mean, what the fuck? Anyway.
Yeah.
All right, so we have some other sad news, or not sad, just frustrating. An Air Force vet in this mild state of Arizona, who is a vet himself of the Air Force and also an employee of the VA. He's a dental assistant. He was ejected from the VA hospital after he complained that twice, as he was walking down a hallway, 3 people were soliciting religion by trying to hand him a Bible and flyers and try to get him to come to church. He's a member of, I think his name's Jesse Gonzalez. He's a member of the Military Religious Freedom Foundation, and I don't know. It's just it's another thing for Arizona. These guys were recently denied access to the VA hospital in Phoenix, and they ended up going to his. But basically, this guy walks up, they offer him a Bible, he doesn't say anything. Then he walks back, and they offer it again, and they get in a shouting match, and one of the religious people uses the F word. That's quoted in there. And then security hurls the employee out the door. Now, keep in mind, VA hospitals are federal property. What?
Yeah, it's like when I read the article, it's like a face, like a face palm thing. Well, I mean, what else?
He called it a slap in the face, rightfully.
Yeah, I mean, even if you take out the religious connotation, if somebody's selling Girl Scout cookies, and you get into an argument over it, you would still think that you would kick the person selling Girl Scout cookies out rather than the person that actually has a job and
fuck you,
should
Brittany.
be there.
Get the hell out of here. This is the third time this week. I'm not going to tell you again. Get your goddamn brownie outfit and get the fuck out of here.
Just on principle, the guy works there, right? And you're saying no, you have to leave.
Yeah.
These people handing out Bibles here, they have an important job to do.
Spreading the word of Christ. Yeah, so that's frustrating. Next up, we reported on this story months ago when it happened, but Kin Park Thang was sentenced to probation after beating her 7-year-old son dozens of times with a coat hanger. And guess how she got out of it? I'll give you a hint. She resides in Indiana.
Has something to do with religious freedom.
Oh, yes. The Religious Freedom Restoration Act, thanks to Mike Pence. She basically said that it is her religious freedom to raise and beat her son with a wire hanger and do what she wants with the wire hanger, all she wants for religious freedom, unless that wire hanger is used to abort her next child. I think she should just stab herself through the throat with it.
So that was a violent passage there.
Hey, I don't. You're beating your 7-year-old kid with a coat hanger, and then these people give her fucking probation. This is why Pence is more dangerous than Christie, in my opinion.
No, I agree. I think it would have been more comedic value to have Trump.
Oh
and Christie.
God, definitely.
But So this Religious Freedom Act. Some of the bakeries not serving gays or whatever, you kind of see how that you understand at least the case on those. But when you look at this one, she beat her son with a hanger. I mean, obviously they never saw Mommy Dearest, no wire hangers. But I mean, it's just like, how the hell could you get off under that? Like, what religion are you practicing?
Poor child, honestly. I mean, that's just it's completely terrible that she's able to get off on probation with something like that. I mean, but so Clarence Thomas tells basically says that Washington is broken.
Wait, he spoke?
Yeah. Oh yeah, he spoke again. He's been very talkative since the death of Scalia.
He's on a roll. That's like twice in a year.
He's fucking up his average, man. It's not going well for him. But basically, he says that Washington is broken, and he says we have become too comfortable not talking or debating. We just annihilate those who disagree with us. And he said the obstruction strategy that the Republicans are using does not work in a republic or civilized society. And this is, I mean, he didn't mention him by name, but I mean, this has to be about Merrick Garland. I mean, I hate to speculate, but it's got to be about it's got to be about the system overall, Congress overall, but mainly specific to Mitch McConnell and everybody refusing to give any sort of attention to who Obama appointed for Supreme Court Justice, which is somebody that they were raving about just the last time Obama was going to appoint somebody to the Supreme Court. So, I mean, I'm sure they're going to obstruct. They said the next president should have the responsibility, but when it's Hillary Clinton, I hope she gives him a big fuck you and just starts submitting extremely left-wing progressive judges. I can dream. I can dream. I can dream. Hey, Hillary Clinton is good on social policy. She is good on social policy.
Yeah, but the problem is, we won't discuss this too much. But the problem is, corporate policy is has a big more of an impact than social policy. But moving forward, I guess a side note, I believe it was an intern also came out this week and accused Clarence Thomas of groping her. So he does have that. And
there's also a movie about it. Go on HBO. Confirmation. Great movie. All the scandal that took place with.
No, that's a separate. This one.
Oh no, I know. I'm saying there's a movie about the same thing happening as he was getting appointed.
Yeah.
So yeah. Is it creepier that he probably does it without saying anything?
I was thinking about it right now. I guess he sees all the success that Ben Carson's having, and he's like, man, you know what? I could be that guy.
and now he sees the success Trump is having with what GOP stands for now, and he's just doing it silently.
Well, he's been grabbing him by the pussy for a while.
For quite some time. I mean, he was appointed by H.W. Bush. I mean, he's been around a while. So, speaking of pussies, we need to restart hashtag Eat the D's, everybody, because not only did these sons of bitches get released or acquitted off of what they did. So I'm talking about Al-Qaeda and the Bundy family, and when they took over the National Refuge Park in Oregon by force with guns, they were just acquitted today. I mean, I can't remember the last time there was a standoff with police where there was a shootout and somebody got killed and then everybody else got released. Typically doesn't happen. But they have been acquitted, and
of all charges, right? And
yeah.
some of the charges were having a gun on federal property.
Right.
And they were live streaming themselves over there playing with their guns and dildos.
And dildos.
Right? They got the dicks in one hand, the guns in the other hand.
And sometimes we turn the lights off and try to guess what's which. It gets really boring out here. We don't have TV. Fucking hits.
Oh man, that was a good one. But I mean, you say like unless there's video or a picture, unless you can show me a video that I did it, I'm innocent.
Yeah.
And clearly they had pictures and video of them at the very least having guns on federal property. I mean, you would think this is a slam dunk case for the prosecution.
The prosecution, they presented their case for 2 straight weeks. 2 weeks of presenting evidence and all that. And yeah, like you said, it's fucking recorded. They didn't hide anything. This wasn't fucking Waco. They weren't behind fucking walls and trying to hide shit. They were way out in the fucking open and trying to recruit more people to their well-regulated dildo militia. Fucking bastards. Anyway, it gets worse. It's not just that they got acquitted. Ryan Bundy, one of the sons of Daddy Bundy, he said, so Obama is thinking about designating a national monument and designating federal land in Nevada, which is near the Bundy Ranch, where Cliven Bundy, the Daddy Bundy, made news in 2014 or 15, a while back, for basically doing the same thing with guns, standing his ground on federal land because the government told him he's illegally grazing his cattle on federal property. So they're threatening to do this now a third time if Obama designates the land near their ranch federal land with a monument, which will really step up the game on whether or not they can graze. But Bundy has continued to graze out there illegally.
That's why, come on, Obama, you got 2 months left. Get that shit done.
God, man. Well, I'm curious to see if they're going to get away with it for number 3.
Well, to be fair, right, the one that you're talking about, is it Ryan? I can't. There's too many Bundys. But I think it's Ryan is actually in jail right now, awaiting sentencing for the part 1.
Yeah.
So hopefully something happens on that one. But yeah, they're already talking about
Yeah, they brought out guns. They were taking during the first one at their ranch. I mean, they were taking positions on a highway with sniper positions and shit like that. But this one, the one in Oregon, was way more extreme.
Yeah, I think definitely right, because if you would have had, some African Americans or Muslims or Hispanics do that,
redneck lives matter.
It would have been pretty crazy. But that's bringing up the Blue Lives Matter. Where were those guys when these good old conservatives had their guns pointed at the police?
Oh no, that's the government. That's not the police. They don't understand that government extends from local up to federal. I don't think they get that. I'll tell you whose lives don't matter. Native Americans. They never have, unfortunately. I mean, we talked about Christopher Columbus as our giant dick of history a week or two ago, and talked about how 95%, 1 in 20 of indigenous people that existed in this on this land before it was America survived from the point of when Christopher Columbus landed here. And the treatment of these people that are now protesting the Dakota Access Pipeline, again, it's like footage out of the civil rights. That's what we said a month or so ago when we covered this. So the National Guard came in with riot gear and descended on protesters who were camping on private land. By the way, they weren't even on the federal on the property that they were building the pipeline on. They were camping on private land, and they descended on them in riot gear with pepper spray and rubber bullets. There was 141 arrests last Thursday, and one protester did fire a gun. Some were using Molotov cocktails. But it's just, these guys, it's not only about rubber bullets and mace. They were housing them in dog kennels. What I don't even know what to say. Look at just take a moment and just listen. Rewind this episode back 5 minutes if you have to, and just listen to the coverage we just had on these dildo-loving fucking rednecks and how they're getting treated. And then focus on this one. And anybody out there that doesn't think that white privilege is a thing, I'm fucking white. I am a straight white fucking male. And I knew white privilege existed before this, but how can this not do it for you?
Yeah, every day I get, kind of updates on the Dakota pipeline. And yeah, like you said, it's discouraging to see how those people, they're treated. Police efforts just keep getting stepped up. Obviously the National Guard's there now. It doesn't look like an end in sight.
The worst part about this is that what I'm about to say should be kind of good news in their favor, but it's not. Right now, the state of Alabama is in a state of emergency because right outside of Birmingham, Alabama, a pipe bursted, and this is the second time in 2 months. But it gets worse than that. A pipeline in North Dakota, where Standing Rock is located, where the protests are going on, not at that place, but in North Dakota, a pipeline owned by Oasis Petroleum busted and has leaked so far as of Monday of this week, has leaked over 67,000 gallons of oil just over the weekend. And these guys are basically saying we don't want that risk. We look, I'm not going to sit here and defend the religion of Native Americans. However, what is important to them is their ancient burial grounds, which this pipeline is going to run through, and it's going to run through the river that supplies their water.
Well, to be fair, what all do they have left?
And that was
besides their tradition.
That was my last point. We owe them their land. If you haven't noticed, we took every other bit of it and gave them the shittiest parts of the United States that we have to offer. It's I don't know what else to say. You would think that they would be bombshells going off right now, and people that actually need to be supporting them, like you and I, don't need to support this, because us talking about this, hopefully it brings news, stuff like that. But the people that need to support it are the people of our government. And you would think the state of emergency right now in Alabama and the pipeline bursting in North Dakota would give some sort of validity to this. And
Yeah,
it's
but
just not.
I think they say it's like a $3.5 billion pipeline. So your protesters compared to $3 billion, put them on the scale. You know how
Brown
it
people
weighs
get
out.
pennies. They're worried about the color green. But moving on to the color orange. So this will be our last election discussion before we vote. And before I forget, I'm not exactly sure when our episode is going to go up next week. We really want to make sure we cover it well. We're definitely not going to do it the night of because we want to get all the facts and I have a strong feeling there's going to be news that comes out on November 8th, next Tuesday. So we will get our episode up when we feel that it's ready to go. But until then, this will be our last discussion about the election until we find out who is actually going to lead this country for the next 4 years.
Oh, yeah.
It's been a long one.
Politics is not going to be over for me. I mean, obviously, it's pretty much what we do, right? But I'm ready for this election to be over.
It's been heartbreaking and exciting and fun at times until that fun turned into a harsh possible reality. It's been an emotional year, and I think I said this in the very beginning, and I'll repeat it. I hate that this is our election, but I am so happy that I'm alive for it. I'm so happy that I'm alive to actually see the craziest fucking election in American history go down.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I second that. It's definitely interesting. This is the Super Bowl of politics, I guess, is a presidential election year.
Right.
But I just would have rather seen if you could have put 100 different scenarios together, I probably would have preferred the other 99 over what the way that it is now. And it'll be a relief. Hopefully, on Wednesday, we can wake up, or I'll be awake, and get the news that Hillary Clinton is the first female president.
I'm glad you used that word because people were asking how excited I was to hear that Hillary Clinton is it's almost a sure thing. But I don't think it's excitement. It's relief. I will be relieved. I mean, I'll be excited for the historical moment that it will be. I will be excited that we have broken the seal on a woman being in office. I don't take that history lightly. I get it. But I will be relieved that Hillary Clinton gets elected. I will be excited. Honestly, what will excite me is if Hillary Clinton wins in a just historic landslide. Because what will excite me then is that hopefully we have shut these fucking rednecks up. And they don't think they have a chance in 2020. That will be my excitement. Is the collapse of the Republican Party, too. I'm getting kind of excited right now just thinking about it.
Yeah, I'll have to see how it plays out. There's again more, couple different scenarios that could happen. They could unite, or they could blow up, or some kind of hybrid thing. Like I've said previous, I think right now this election shows more than any other election that I've been a part of that we really need more options.
Yeah.
I think I think at the minimum we should have 4 parties. One pretty far left, one in the middle, center left, center right, one far right. I think that's the only way that you can really in this climate really communicate with each other. You'll have the far left, working with the center left on certain things, and on even certain budget things, maybe in the far right, or different. It's just right now the two, like Clarence Thomas said, right? It's just broken. And
it's obstruction, yeah.
The way that it's set up, it's a great setup. The Constitution, did, for being as old as it is, came up with a great system of governance, but it just requires people to actually do their jobs. And for the past, 10 years, 12 years or so, that's just not happening. So,
right.
well, I mean, we'll see. We got a week left. The commercials now, it's every other commercials.
Yep.
Trump or Hillary or
Hillary
for me,
put out a pretty powerful commercial. I like the newest one she put out where you're seeing a bunch of minority families living their daily life, watching election night, and then you have a child asking if they can stay. Hopefully that gets the point across, because that is a real thing that we face with Donald Trump. But we also face lies with Donald Trump, as we all know. But one thing I hope he is right about. He told his supporters that this is the last chance they'll ever get. There will never be another chance to do what they're doing right now. He told them that at a rally, actually the one in Greeley. He also said that police officer deaths are up 48%. So, again, I feel the need every once in a while to crunch numbers and put a spreadsheet together. So I'm just going to quickly read through. I'm not even going to give you guys the figures. You guys can look it up if you want. But I'm just going to give you the top states who have the highest police officer by gun death rate. Deaths of police officers by gun rates. South Dakota, Montana, Alabama, Mississippi, North Dakota, Oklahoma, Georgia, Arkansas, Louisiana, and Maine. Alex, do those states sound familiar at all?
Yeah, those are the most liberal states in the country.
Yes, not only are they the most liberal, no, they are let me see here. I'm trying to see if I can even find a blue one. There isn't a blue one on here. No. Well, Louisiana's half and half. But if those states sound familiar to you, then you're thinking of an episode that we did, 4 or 5 episodes ago, where I totaled up the most gun deaths compared to the highest gun ownership per capita of each state. And the ones with the highest gun deaths and the most ownership were all Republican states, and many of them are on this list. Sounds funny.
Yeah. Too bad people don't correlate facts.
I guess not. And these police shootings the other day took place in Florida, right?
I believe it was Iowa.
Oh, was it? Ah, shit. I was gonna make another point. Anyway.
Hey, what is that? Is that a bird? Is that a plane? It's a
oh no!
dick.
Yeah, it's a giant dick. Everybody, here it comes.
Okay, so today we're going to do a little different. Christopher Columbus was overall a dick, but a lot of people had a good kind of perception of him. So today we reached into the history books. Actually, recently I was looking, at the dictators responsible for the most amount of deaths under their watch, and Hitler's number 3, and he's always the one that everybody kind of talks about as being the worst dictator. And I mean, clearly his was more genocidal. He had targeted people, but
there's a giant dong above him though, right?
Number 1 on the list, MaoTse Tung. He's somebody that I had to actually do some research on, and it was interesting. This segment is basically we like to have fun when we can, but also to educate and stuff. And I felt like I definitely educated myself preparing for this. So a little bit about Zedong. I guess
you sound like a German fucking brothel. We take Zedong. Oh, Euro Trip. That's what I'm thinking of. Euro Trip.
Shit. So he was born to a wealthy farmer. As he grew up and started educating himself, he embraced Marxism and communism, and he was one of the founding people of the Chinese Communist Party, and he was a charismatic leader. He was able to get people to follow him. I mean, pretty much, I guess, like all dictators have to have some kind of charisma. In his first 5 years in charge, there's an estimated 4 to 6 million people that were either executed or died in slave camps. So it was, I mean, pretty rough. He was a revolutionary kind of person. He was big on the whole revolution, and he did, instead of like a workers' revolution, kind of what happened in Russia. It was more of like peasant revolution. So he went to the bottom of the people, and got them to join him in a revolution. And like a lot of revolutionaries, he did some good things. He increased the education rate, health, life expectancy. I think doubled under his watch. So a lot of things, a lot of positive things are good. In China, he's actually still seen as a positive figure. He's known. He had a plan called the Great Leap Forward, and basically he took China from being a farming kind of community. He encouraged everybody to stop farming and start producing steel. So as he was doing this, there was 3 years of floods, and it basically led to 20 million deaths from famine. They couldn't feed their people. They stopped farming. Everybody went to work in the factories, and what happened? There was no food. So 20 million deaths came from there. And then after that, he kind of lost power. And then, being the kind of revolutionary that he was, from the sidelines, he started taking power again. This one was called the Cultural Revolution. And with his wife, Zheng Qing, his fourth wife, excuse me. And I heard her on tape. She said, "I'm Mao's dog. When he tells me to bite, I bite." And she was basically.
I think I heard Melania Trump say that too. She stole from her too. Jesus Christ, that woman can't stop stealing speeches.
So she basically was in charge of the propaganda. All art and videos and everything had to be from the Communist Party. So, I mean, basically, it was like a North Korea for a while.
Right.
It was interesting to see some of the videos and stuff. Everything just basically stopped with the Cultural Revolution. The next thing that Mao started doing was denouncing teachers and saying that they were wasting time and calling on students basically to revolt against their teachers. So you basically had the entire civilization of China kind of grind to a halt. I was watching, in the interviews, people saying we didn't go to school for 2 or 3 years because they said stop going to school. So like I said, it was definitely interesting. This guy's a dick because his policies and, I mean, deaths from the state equal anywhere from 49 to 78 million people.
Holy shit.
I mean, just a staggering number. And it's interesting that he still has a good kind of reputation over there. He's not seen, they don't compare him to Stalin or Hitler or anything like that, especially in China.
So to sum it up, the guy's a dick because of his policies, but he is a giant dick of history because he killed more people than Hitler. Pretty much, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, everybody. That concludes episode 45. Like I said, we will have our episode 46, which will be our first episode after the election day on Tuesday. We're gonna wait for that, and we'll try to get it up. Speaking of giant dicks, we'll try to get that up on Wednesday, the day after, if possible. So look forward to that. So follow us on Twitter at AOR_podcast, the Age of Reason podcast page on Facebook. And again, for everything else, AORpodcast.com. We continue to add more content. I added a featured content section and a show content. So if you want to listen to, you guys might be wondering why you may have been seeing in your podcast feed like Skeptic Sunday School and stuff like that. We're posting that Skeptic Sunday School, Atoms and Evolution, and our Giant Dick segment. Just in case you want to listen to that instead of having to scroll through the whole episode, that sort of thing. So that's our show content. And in our feature content, as we discuss films and documentaries that Alex and I watch and then discuss on the podcast, You can see a collection of stuff that we either just recommend or things that we have also recommended on the show, with a link to the corresponding podcast that we discussed it, trailer, information, why we discussed it, that sort of thing. And we will be adding a music section on there as well for the musicians like Bo Burnham and John Lennon, not John Legend. And well, John Legend too, maybe. I mean, we'll see. But other people that we have discussed from the music side of the world. So, and we also have a few more things coming. So make sure you guys check into aorpodcast.com. All right, everybody. Hopefully the world does not start coming to an abrupt end next week. Barring the freedom of speech, the First Amendment getting abolished, we will see you guys next week.